And welcome, everybody, to another episode of the Picks and Roll podcast here on the SteadyPicks YouTube channel. I'm your host, Scott Reichel, here to break down the first game of the conference finals round, game one of the Western Conference Finals between the Spurs and the Thunder, taking place on Monday night. Should be a great series. We're all looking forward to it. A lot of people think whoever wins this series will win the title. That remains to be seen. But either way, once again, should be a great matchup, and we're looking forward to it. We got to start off with game one. Now, before we get into game one, I want to briefly talk about the Spurs series-clinching victory against the Timberwolves that happened on Friday. Won't take that long because the game was over quite quickly. The Spurs did win the game by 30 on the road. They were up by double digits at halftime. Blew them out in the third quarter. They won every quarter by at least 4 points. Really not close, and the Spurs once again scored 139 points. So for the matchup here, all five starters on the Spurs did score at least 11 points. Castle had 32 points. He was great. He had 32, 11, and 6. Fox was great as well. He had 21 points on 8 of 10 shooting. Wemby had 19 points and 6 rebounds on 6 of 11 shooting. And once again, everyone came through. Harper had 15 points off the bench as well. We had a great episode for Game 6. We took the Spurs. We took the Harper over points. And we also had the Ant under RA at plus money, and they got there easily as he finished with 4. So overall, a great episode for us. We swept the entire Game 6. Spurs, though, were too good. They realized as the series went on, if they just prevented Ant from going totally crazy, nobody else is going to beat them because Julius Randle's been a mess this entire series. He had rock bottom in Game 6. But either way, they kept Ant in check and finished with 24 points, and that was nowhere near enough as the Spurs ran out of the building, and they won by 30. So for the team stats, Spurs were great in every area. Spurs shot 56% from the floor, 47% from 3, and 85% from the free throw line. So once again, north of a 50, 40, and 80 game tells you how good the team played, or how well they played on the road here in a series-clinching environment. For the Timberwolves, they shot the ball horribly, 38% from the floor, 35% from 3, and 81% from the free throw line. But the Spurs did out-rebound Minnesota by 31. It was 60-29. It was ugly, and nobody on Minnesota had more than 7 rebounds. For the player stats here, Ant at 24 points. Not efficient, though, on 9 of 26 shooting. Left the game early because they pulled everyone. He walked over to the Spurs bench, gave everyone basically a hug, and said, nice job, and he left. I like the sportsmanship. I know people thought it was somewhat controversial. I really don't think it matters. Like, who cares? Minnesota was going to lose the game guaranteed, and it was definitely done for the day. I don't really have an issue with it. I don't really care. But either way, once again, the Spurs definitely earned the right to be here in the conference finals by taking care of business in games 5 and 6 against the Timberwolves. So anyway, moving on into the actual, I'd say, main areas of criticism for Minnesota. I have to mention a couple of players by name. Julius Randle, what the hell was that? 3 points in an elimination game. 1 of 8 from the floor, negative 34. He was useless. Gobert at 0 points. That was not good either. I know 4 from the floor. Only 3 rebounds. So Gobert and Randle combined to score 3 points in a combined 46 minutes. Dosunmu had 10 points. He was okay. McDaniels wasn't efficient. He had 13 points on 4 of 13 shooting. It really didn't matter. I mean, Naz Reid played well. He had 18 and 7. But Randle was invisible. Gobert was horrible. And it looked like the Spurs just wouldn't stop scoring. They scored 29-plus points in every quarter. They scored 36-plus points in each of the first 3 quarters. So Minnesota basically got, once again, destroyed on both ends of the floor, and that's why they lost by 30. But either way, Minnesota gave it a good run, beat Denver despite being shorthanded, lost DiVincenzo, and of course was out for, or I wouldn't say out, he was definitely, I'd say, limited for almost the entire playoff run. They still made it to the second round, still won a couple of games off the Spurs. Impressive, but the team's not good enough. And Julius Randle as a second option is a joke in a 2026. Get that fixed. Get Ant an actual second option to make them serious title contenders in the future. However, once again, the Thunder haven't played in a while. They've not played since the 11th. They swept the Lakers. Not going to recap that game 4. But the Spurs, once again, nice job. They kind of woke up after Wemby got ejected in game of, once again, 4. They blew that game. After that, they won both of the remaining games by at least 29 points. Nice job by them, and we'll see if they can keep that rolling against the best team in the league on the road on Monday. So getting into the actual game one preview, Thunder laying 6.5, and the over-under is at 217.5. Now, there is a rest advantage for the Thunder because they swept. They ended up, of course, not playing since the 11th. However, the Spurs played on the 15th. Still ample rest time before Monday. Not going to read too much into it. Both teams should be fine. The Thunder, though, could definitely use those extra days off because J-Dub is apparently going to be back in the lineup. According to Jalen Williams, he is feeling perfectly fine and healthy and should be returning to the lineup. A reminder, the Thunder went 8-0 without arguably their second-best player on the entire roster, which is insane. But either way, once again, the Thunder now are getting even more reinforcements because Jalen Williams should be back in the lineup. So for the actual head-to-head in the regular season, the Spurs actually own the Thunder. They went 4-1 in the regular season. We'll point out the Thunder did win the last home game by 21 points, but the Spurs played against them a month later in San Antonio, and they won the game by 10. Spurs, though, look, at the end of the day, it comes down to Wemby, and if this Thunder front court with Hartenstein, with Chet, Chet and, of course, Wemby have a bit of a rivalry between the two of them. The point is, can their front court keep Wemby somewhat in check, or will Wemby go crazy and wreck the entire game plan for OKC? We'll see what happens, but once again, the Spurs have been quite good against the Thunder this season, yet these Thunder are laying 6.5. They've been great so far this postseason, beat the Suns, who are playing team not very good, beat the Lakers with no Luka, so once again, the Lakers were a pretty underwhelming team, and it was a pretty easy path for the Thunder up to this point. For the Spurs, look, Portland can be a bit tricky. They won that series in 5, and they beat Minnesota in 6. Probably should have been in 5 because once again, of course, they did end up losing the one game with Wemby's ejection. But either way, once again, the Spurs have had a tougher competition so far, and they've played more games because of it. So we'll see what happens, but the Thunder, once again, are laying basically 3 possessions in this game. So for the actual spread, it's going to be a very tricky game one. I'm going to take the wait-and-see approach for most of the options here because I do think that these teams are going to present very unique challenges to one another. So you might want to, once again, kind of take game one as a feel-out process and see what happens. I do have a couple of plays prepared, which I am going to mention. But for the sake of this game, I'm not going too crazy on game one. I do think that, once again, there's some value to be found in a couple of spots. But I think it's going to be a very entertaining series. Maybe it goes 7. And once again, I'm looking forward to all the storylines and the drama we should be getting over the course of these games. Now, for the spread, I understand OKC's at home. I get the Spurs are inexperienced, but I do think I'm going to go with the Spurs plus the 6.5. I'm not going to lock it up or anything, but the Spurs, once again, being 4-1 the regular season, it does feel like they've had success against this team, and I do think that Wemby presents a unique challenge that you really can't prepare for. We know the Thunder's offense was great against the Lakers and the Suns. 2 teams with no rim protection at all, with DeAndre Ayton or like Mark Williams, who was injured for most of the series. So it was basically Iguodala. So the Thunder have faced off against really no great rim protectors, and now you have the best one in arguably league history. I can see the Spurs defense causing some problems in game one for the Thunder offense, enough so where I do think you're looking at the Spurs to actually keep this game close. I'll go Spurs plus 6.5. I think that they've proven they can give this team fits on a regular basis. If Castle plays like that, watch out. Castle was really good in Game 6 against Minnesota. Fox played well, but of course we know that they also have Harper off the bench. They have depth that can somewhat, I don't want to say match OKC, but they can rival OKC in terms of bench production. And Keldon Johnson, of course, did win 6th Man of the Year. So based on that, I'll go for the Spurs plus 6.5. For the total, this is a play that I do like. I'm going to take a prop or a game, prop on a pivot from the total instead. I'm going to take each team to score 102 plus points at minus 120. Totals at 217.5. Sounds about right. I do think, though, this number is quite generous. I think each team does get to 102 individually, and that's minus 120. This cashed in 4 of the 5 meetings in the regular season. The one exception was the Spurs, who scored 98 in the last game in OKC. But I think Wemby and company will be ready for the challenge. Yes, I know both teams are elite defensively. Both teams offensively, though, also really good. The Spurs have scored at least 102 points in all 11 playoff games, and the Thunder have scored at least 108 in all 8 playoff games. So both playoff offenses have been quite consistent and quite solid. And once again, it has cashed in 4 of the 5 regular season meetings between these teams. I'm going with each team to score 102 plus points as my favorite play at minus 120 for this one. Moving on into the player props for this game. Once again, taking a less is more approach for this one. You can make a bunch of arguments in favor and against players because both teams bring such unique obstacles to the table in terms of a defensive challenge for one another. So you might end up seeing a random role player star game. We'll see what happens, but I'm going back to the well. I'm going to go with Dylan Harper over the 10.5 points here at minus 109. We've been taking it constantly. It's been winning constantly, and he went over once again in Game 6 against Minnesota. He flew over that one. He's at 11-plus points in 6 of his last 7, and on top of that, he's had at least 11 points in 14 of his last 19 road games. Simply put, he's really, really good at basketball. We saw Fox go to the locker room a bit in Game 6, came back, but the point is, if he's not 100%, maybe we'll end up seeing more usage for Harper. But Harper's been great all postseason. He's extremely composed. He seems to be very comfortable in the environment. And I do think 10.5. If you keep giving me this number and I keep taking the over and it keeps winning, I'm not going to reinvent the wheel here. I think this number is definitely generous. And I think it should be closer to 11.5 or even higher. But Harper's been a monster all postseason. Yes, he comes off the bench. Still plays 20-plus minutes in every game. He's invaluable to their team success because of the depth that this team possesses. I think he'll play well once again. Give me Dylan Harper over 10.5 points at minus 109 as my prop for this game. It's going to wrap it up, though. Once again, not going to go that deep into the weeds for Game 1, which can play out in a variety of ways. So I might have a lot more action in Game 2. But Game 1, I kind of want to see how both teams treat each other, and I'm going to kind of make some takeaways from there. So based on that, I'm going to take Game 1 pretty lightly. Apologies if you're expecting an episode jam-packed with picks. But I'm not going to force anything if I don't see much there. I didn't see much that I liked. So based on that, I'm going to go with, once again, the prop for both teams to score, 102-plus points at minus 120, and I'm going to go with the Harper over 10.5 points, all reliable so far in the postseason, over 10.5 points at minus 109. Going to wrap it up, though, for Game 1 of the Western Conference Finals. We're going to be back once again for Game 1 of the Eastern Conference Finals in the next episode. Till next time, support the show, of course, on the SteadyPicks YouTube channel. Like subscribing to the channel. And a reminder, find me on Twitter, Reichel Radio. Till next time, good luck to all of you and all of your bets. Bye, everyone.